Okay, this evening it's my pleasure on behalf of the Sandwich Public Schools, the school committee's subcommittee entitled Facilities Long-Range Planning, Phase 1 STEM. And as I walk you through this PowerPoint, hopefully you can see where we've come to as a result of a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations. To begin with, I want to bring you back to the meeting of October 10th, at which time the Sandwich School Committee approved the following motion: to plan for the establishment of a 7th and 8th grade STEM academy and to assess the possibility of opening it in the A wing of the high school in the fall of 2013. So that was the motion that was approved back on October 10th. So what it meant to the Facilities Long-Range Planning Committee, they met on November 8th. And during that meeting, there were 3 tasks that we needed to focus on. The first was to explore the viability of opening the STEM Academy in September of 2013. And the guideline that we focused on was the reality that the planning needed to occur. And we felt that if we ran into an obstacle that we identified that could not be overcome, then we would recommend revising the opening date. The second thing we decided to focus on was to continue to identify the assets or benefits of the STEM program and also the challenges that need to be addressed prior to opening. And also to continue to work between the finance work group and also the facilities work group to come up with some sense of what the cost would be for the STEM Academy. And that would also focus on staffing costs and equipment and technology needs. So let me say right from the outset, for those who might be concerned about the timeliness of this, it is appropriate that we let everyone know that as a result of the meeting on November 8th, tonight I am recommending to the school committee that we revise our opening date, and that we're recommending that we move to open the STEM Academy in September of 2014, and to give ourselves basically 18 months to deal with a number of items. And at that meeting, we talked about the kinds of things that we have to deal with as a school committee, and also that your administration, which is relatively small in numbers, also need to contend with. And so we have no regrets about having pursued the start in September of 2013, because it really forced us to move quickly, to have a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations with parents and faculty, and to identify what were some of the things we would need to deal with, and were they, was there any one thing we couldn't overcome? And we felt we could deal with most everything, but there was a lot on our plate. So to begin with, the educator evaluation plan that covers administrators, teachers, and the superintendent needs to be in place by September of 2013. That's required under Mass General Law and by the Department of Education. And so that involves negotiations, and it also involves a lot of training. That training is currently ongoing for administrators, and we're moving along very well. Another thing that we realized is that we have negotiations for collective bargaining agreements for several of them that need to occur over the course of the next year. And then also we identified, and I'll put right out there, we are estimating the cost of STEM at approximately $900,000. And I mention it here because the way it relates to our thinking about 2014 is that we feel that that $900,000 can be spread over 3 fiscal years in order to mitigate the impact on the overall town and school budget. I think this is an example of where, by working together, we can accomplish something that's pretty amazing, and I think in a very cost-effective manner. When we continued our conversation about the opening date, We also felt that by moving it out to 2014, that we would provide more time to work with students, parents, and staff to build a new school culture, and to provide adequate time for A-wing room modifications, that we can handle most of those internally. We also talked about providing more time for teacher training. This was a concern that was expressed not only by faculty, but by parents, as they came to understand what STEM was really all about and what inquiry-based teaching and learning is about. They questioned, are our teachers really ready for this? And we've been working on an inquiry-based approach to teaching and learning. It's part of our literacy model. But we still felt we could benefit from additional time for more training, and also more training in the use of the tablet technology. And then also to provide additional time to explore scheduling options. Scheduling is very complex, and there are many different models out there, and we just felt we needed more time to really look at how we can accommodate both the high school needs in one school, and in our other school that we're calling the STEM Academy, also to accommodate their scheduling needs. So in terms of the final report and recommendations from that November 8th meeting, from the work groups on facilities, finance, and program, which we also refer to as school culture, because it wasn't just about the academic offerings, we decided we wanted to look at assets. We had kind of a T-chart on a board, and we listed on Post-its and posted them on the board the various ideas that individuals and groups had about assets, that is, program enhancements that we wanted to emphasize for students. And then also challenges, which are STEM elements that require further planning and consideration in order to be able to open up smoothly in September of 2014. And then also we gave people the opportunity to post on that whiteboard through their Post-its any ideas or recommendations that they might have. I just want to give you a sampling of some of the key assets, because we've talked a lot about this in prior meetings that we've had, but we felt we would expand or be a little more concise in terms of what those enhancements would be. So we're talking about more academic offerings, that for the first time we would be offering health sciences for 7th and 8th grade. We've not offered health prior to high school. That needs to be corrected, and we will at least start by offering health as a health science class in the 7th and 8th grade STEM Academy. We also know, for those who are concerned about the role of art in STEM, we do have to have opportunities for students to attend special classes. As you know, currently our K-8 schools have one art teacher that serves grades K through 8. Here, with 2 grades, those 7th and 8th graders are going to have the opportunity to have double the amount of art time. We're also able to offer them Chinese as part of our world language program. We've mentioned before the engineering, design, and robotics class. Engineering, design, and technology is a part of the science standards for the state of Massachusetts. We've also talked about some elective offerings, creative writing, web design, Cape Cod archaeology. So a lot of great ideas that have come forth about course offerings that really will interest students and really engage them. As one of my favorite authors says, it will engage them in terms of head, heart, and soul. And that results in really excellent learning for all students. We're also talking about support services. We're giving them a guidance counselor exclusively for 7th and 8th grade. They've not had that before. We're also providing them with their own nursing services. There will be a nursing room in the STEM Academy because we determined it was not appropriate to have 7th and 8th graders using a high school nurse's office, 2 different sets of issues and concerns. Expansion of one-to-one technology. We're also talking about a separate 7th and 8th grade interscholastic sports program. This would be a very significant enhancement. Currently, we're paying for 3 coaches, same sport, but because our program runs in 3 different locations. Now we're talking about consolidating and having a true interscholastic athletic program to compete with towns around us that are part of a middle school league. Also, more extracurricular offerings for grades 7 and 8, including clubs, intramurals, student government, music, including instrumental and choral programs that will be available here, and opportunities for academic acceleration at some point for those students and who, as students and parents, feel that perhaps their children are ready to take a high school class. That will happen eventually, just as we have some high school students who are able to take college level courses for college credit, for dual credit. Continuing with the assets and opportunities, we talked about community collaborations with Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, Mass Maritime, 4Cs, and other institutions of higher education, government and private STEM-related agencies that have been in contact with us. This has been happening over the span of probably the last 6-8 months since we started talking about STEM. So many people reaching out, wanting to partner with us in a variety of ways. Also, grant opportunities for program development and real world of work experiences for students. And the development of a pre-K through grade 12 district-wide STEM initiative using inquiry-based approach across all disciplines. We talked about the fact that the state of Massachusetts has now issued preschool STEM curriculum standards. So it's clearly being embedded throughout our pre-K through grade 12 system here in Massachusetts. Challenges to be addressed over the 18 months until the opening. First of all, we determined that we would look to provide time to build parent relationships within the academy, including a STEM Academy PTA, to provide time to acclimate students to the academy and to identify traditions and practices that are important and meaningful to academy students. So we're going to need time to do that. We'll be working on that over the course of the 18 months. And to provide activities and time for staff from 3 buildings to come together as one unified faculty within the STEM Academy. Provide opportunities for STEM Academy faculty and students to meet and build relationships. These are the kinds of things that remain as challenges that we need to plan for and address over the course of the next 18 months. We need to work to determine the best start and end times for the academic day. We heard from parents concerns they had about that, and so we are going to be looking at adjusting the academic start and end times. To determine the best academic schedule that guarantees grades 7 and 8 access to their own lunch time, their own gym time, and their own music and library time. And to provide professional development for all STEM teachers to focus on inquiry and also the use of one-to-one technology. When we met with them for 2 hours on the in-service day, they were excited about the tablet technology, but for many of them, as for many of us in our generation, where this represents new technology, there's kind of a learning curve, and we need to help our teachers to cross over in terms of their knowledge and understanding how to best use that one-to-one technology in the classroom with students. We also felt that we needed to provide more time to meet with focus groups of high school students about their concerns, their interests, and increased program opportunities. I had the opportunity this morning to be interviewed by some high school students for a little program that they were doing for a class here at the high school. And it was a great opportunity to talk with them. And they asked me about STEM and what I was looking to high school students for. And I shared with them that, in part because my office is here, I have many opportunities to meet high school students, and I'm incredibly proud of them. Not just their accomplishments academically or athletically or within the performing arts, but just how polite, how decent they are in the way they greet people and how they conduct themselves. And I said to them, you know, in many ways, what I'm looking for is for the high school students to welcome the 7th and 8th graders. Now, the 7th and 8th grade STEM Academy will be a separate school within the school. However, we do know that there will be times that we'll want to be able to have them meet each other. We do a lot with mentoring between high school students that go down to 4th grade and do projects at Forestdale and at Oak Ridge and at the Wing School. And we want them to get to know our high school students. So I said to them this morning, in many ways, I want you to be like a big brother or big sister to these 7th and 8th graders coming in, because many of them you may know from your neighborhoods. You may know them from having been with them not too long ago at the Wing School or at Oak Ridge or at Forestdale. And now we greet them only under the same roof. But they need to have their own identity and their own programs as a STEM academy. But I also wanted the high school students to understand, as I want everyone to understand, that the higher our level of enrollment within our system, the more programs we are able to offer. And so if we shrink, it can often mean fewer programs. And what we're really talking about here is enhancing our program offerings. And you've seen the results of it somewhat tonight with the acknowledgement that we received from the College Board. Because with thanks to this school committee and also to the taxpayers here in Sandwich, we were able to build up our program level here at the high school, which, if you recall, last year at budget time, we said we were under-programmed. We were able to shift some FTEs because of declining enrollment in the K-8s, and we boosted the program level here at the high school. One of the areas that we focused on was the advanced placement offerings. We need to be very competitive in everything we do, and that's my intention. I hope everybody's on board. We want to be the best at everything we do. We also want to be able to lock in current grant opportunities and partnerships. We want to be able to reorganize our athletic program to include 7th and 8th grade interscholastic team opportunities. And it'll take a lot of time to accomplish that. And we feel we can do that well over the span of 18 months. And also to provide time for revisions to transportation to best meet the needs of all students. We heard many concerns from parents about transportation. We have not, honed in on any perfect solution. But I will say it's important for everyone to understand that transportation for 7th through 12th graders is not required by law. It is a service that we provide. And I think if nothing else, folks should understand that our expectation, both parents and educators and administrators, should be that our students conduct themselves appropriately on the school buses. We do have cameras that help with monitoring. But despite the cameras, I have to count on every single student exercising good judgment and good conduct. If they fail to do that, we have systems that we currently use. Our K-8 principals will tell you that on some school buses, they assign students seats, the entire bus. In some cases, they don't have to do that, but if they have a student who misbehaves, that student gets an assigned seat, usually the first seat right next to where the driver is. And usually they don't want to stay there for very long. So they have to earn back their privilege to sit with friends on the bus. And the ultimate shoe drops if the behavior gets to be too bad when we say, that's it, you're done. You either walk to school or get driven to school, but we are not by law required to provide transportation for students that cannot conduct themselves appropriately on our buses. So that's one clear message that has to be out there no matter what the solution is regarding transportation for grades 7 through 12. In terms of STEM budget planning, we need to proceed with a search for a director of the academy. I want to be able to move forward with that for a few reasons. Number one is to solidify grants and partnerships that are currently there for us, and we need to show a commitment to those. And then also to take the lead in the team building and professional development that will need to occur over the span of the next 18 months. Quite frankly, I can't do it all, nor can Dr. Boris or any of our other administrators. We need help with that, and we feel to do it really well, we want to move ahead with the appointment of a director for the STEM Academy. We're going to need to determine the appropriate staffing needs that would be based on the program that we are offering. I do know from my meetings with faculty, some teachers were concerned about what their jobs would be next year. But we don't exist as a system just to provide jobs. We exist to provide excellent programs to educate our students. And those programs then determine what our staffing needs are. So by providing 18 months, I also gave teachers the message that if you're currently engaged in graduate study and you feel you can accelerate things and increase your level of certification or get certified in some other areas, then you should by all means go ahead and do that. That's something that I've recommended to teachers for years, including when I spent 10 years dealing with human resources in Connecticut. It was on the advisory board for certification in Connecticut. I was always telling teachers, get more certifications to protect yourself and to be more versatile in terms of how the world is changing academically. We're also going to continue to freeze this year's budget and hopefully to allow us to preserve some funding for STEM expenditures during this current fiscal year. So I've asked the principals, I've asked teachers, if you don't need it, don't spend for it. I had a membership that came up that Joan Calkins put in front of me and said, we still need this? And I said no. It was $250, I think. But we're right down to that. If I don't need it, I'm not buying it. And I'm asking everyone to do that. So let's really be fiscally conservative and spend our money well so that we can work on this $900,000 piece a little bit in this fiscal year and then spread the rest of the cost over FY14 and 15 in order to mitigate the cost and the impact to both the town budget and the school system budget. I want to acknowledge I've had some wonderful meetings. Michelle Austin has been fabulous. Michelle and I have met with Bud Dunham and also with Doreen, who handles the financing for the town. And that was a direction we were given to, through the selectmen, to begin this budget process early and to bring the two entities, the town and the schools, together at the executive level to start to talk about what do we need to be doing budget. This would put us in a better position for when we get to that meeting in perhaps December, when we'll be talking about how do we move forward. And I am concerned about the economic times and what we hear at the national and state level. But I also know that for Sandwich to move forward with the kinds of projects that it wants to accomplish within the town, with the emergency services building, with senior center, with other kinds of things that they want, we have school needs. That's our responsibility. But we are currently functioning with 4 buildings. We know that one of them eventually needs to come offline. We also know that the other 2 have portables that are well beyond their service life and need to be taken down, and we need to cease using those. Those would be the portables at Forestdale and at Oak Ridge. So with all of that in mind, we, in a sense, when the STEM Academy opens, in a sense, we'll be operating 5 schools in 4 buildings. And not too long after that, though, we need to get to a point where we're operating 4 schools in 3 buildings and the wing school comes offline. We'll have to determine when that occurs as we get into phase 2. Right now, we're just working on phase 1, STEM. But we clearly understand where the town wants to go. And I have said to those people that I interact with that it's important that we're all in this together. The stars are properly aligned for Sandwich to do something really quite well with the STEM Academy, but I do have to count on the support of this community for a reasonable budget in FY14 and 15. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to continue to move forward with a STEM academy. And at that point, we would be in a stay-put situation, and it would be very, very challenging for the school committee and for this superintendent to look at how do we deal with a budget under those circumstances. Some of the initial numbers that were kicked around were alarming, but I also know that there's a significant suggestion of willingness anyway to really try and work with us, realizing that if all of this is to come together for the town, emergency services, senior center, doing the right thing for our kids in these schools, then we need support in this amount, in this way, in order to get us to the STEM Academy. I want to acknowledge in particular our STEM school team, I guess what I will call it, because it's really been Dr. Boris and Gil Newton, Maureen Wicklund, Trish Hill, Claire Brady, and we have spent many nights out. I also want to acknowledge that our principals, as they were able to, did join us for many of those meetings, but some of these meetings that could have been an hour, hour and a half, in some cases were 3 hours. And we were there because we cared enough to listen to every comment and do our best to respond to every question. And the information that we gathered was brought back to that facilities long-range planning group that is really what brought us to the recommendations for today. I also want to acknowledge that there were 4 separate faculty meetings, obviously each of the schools. For the parent meetings, unfortunately, because of the storms, we ended up canceling the Wing School Parents meeting not once but twice. I just want to draw attention to the fact we're working with Sheila Lima and also with the PTA at the Wing School. We have rescheduled that parent session for November 27th. We still want to have that opportunity to sit with parents and again to listen to their ideas and their concerns, because that gets factored in to the challenges that we need to address over the course of the next 18 months. So in terms of next steps, what we need and what I'm looking for this evening is I'm looking for a motion and a vote and hopefully approval from the school committee to approve the establishment of a 7th and 8th grade STEM Academy to open as a separate school within the A wing of the high school facility in the fall of 2014. So this is a revision to the vote of October 10th. And then also, I'm asking that action be taken this evening because we have given a lot of information through a lot of sessions. But at this point, we need to be able to move ahead because within probably 4 or 5 weeks, we have a lot of work to do in preparing a budget for FY14. So while we're doing all of this planning for STEM, this team is also working on developing a budget for 2014. It's a lot of work. We also need to continue to work to address all of the STEM planning challenges that I've mentioned, and also to begin planning for phase 2 involving the 3 K-6 schools. So what we've done really at this point is come to you with recommendations from the long-range planning committee, phase 1 STEM, but there will be a phase 2. And I'm going to leave it at that.